welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now, I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book Crisis Time, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. The morning I stepped off the boat in Rio de Janeiro, I found my friend C waiting for me at Praia dos Mineiros. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how my trip was. The first words out of his mouth were, "The ministry has fallen." I blinked. "You knew I was arriving today, didn't you?" He smiled. "Of course. But you want to hear the news first, right? So here it is. The ministry is gone." I laughed. You always did have a flair for drama. But he was serious. "No. Listen. You think a crisis here is like back home? No. I'd say. Here, you feel every heartbeat. Back in the provinces, you only hear about it when it's already over. You learn that one ministry is dead, and another is already born. But here, you watch it die. You see the funeral. Then you wait sometimes for days for the new one to come. And when it does, it's like a baby pulled out by force after a long and painful labor. I looked around. The city buzzed like usual. People walked fast. Street vendors shouted. The sun beat down on the stone. But beneath it all, something had shifted. "So what now?" I asked. Now we eat. You hungry?" I was. "Yeah." "Then let's go to the Europa Hotel. If there's a room left, you'll stay there." There was. After lunch, we lit our cigars and stepped back into the street. "Where do we find the latest news?" I asked. He pointed at the street beneath our feet. "Right here. Rua do Ouvidor." "You're joking." "I'm not. This street is the real capital of Brazil. The ministries come and go, but this street, it's where the country breathes." He led me past cafes and bookshops, tailors and banks. Go to Moutinho's or Bernardo's house, and you'll hear more than in any government office. Talk to Desmarais or Garnier, and you'll know the truth before the newspapers print it. I looked around again. "So this is where it all happens?" "Yes," he said, "this is where the country is built." One conversation at a time. I said nothing. I just walked beside him, listening, watching, learning. And somewhere behind us, the old ministry was already being buried. We walked together toward a political gathering spot, where we found only one man smoking and chatting with the shop clerk. "What time was she here?" the man asked. "At 10, we heard him say as we entered." The man immediately fell silent and sat down on a chair behind the counter, tapping his cane against the tip of his boot. "Is this some kind of love affair?" I whispered to C. "Interesting," he replied. "Probably you're right. Maybe a rose from Cythera." "No way," I said. "Why not? The gardens of Cythera are open and free. No one watches roses from the outside." "Small town thinking," C said with one of those smiles only he could pull off. "You don't know that now roses are in fashion. It's an honor for the gardener." "Come, sit down." No. Let's stay by the door for a while. I want to get to know this street everyone talks about. You're right, said C. They say of Shakespeare that if humanity were destroyed, he alone could recreate it, because he left no thread of the human heart untouched. That's exactly how I feel about this street. Rua do Ouvidor sums up the city of Rio de Janeiro. At certain times of the day, even if a heavenly storm were to destroy the whole city, as long as Rua do Ouvidor remains, Noah could save his family and everything else. A city is a stone body with a face. The face of this city is this street, a face that speaks clearly, expressing every feeling and every idea. Go on, my Virgil. Then keep listening, my Dante. Wanna see real Rio elegance? Here you'll find the best of society, the ladies choosing jewels at Valais or silks at Notre Dame, the young men talking about theaters, parties, fashion, and women. Want to know politics? Here you'll hear the freshest news, upcoming changes, and likely events. You'll see the current congressman with the former one, the late minister, and sometimes even a living one. See that man over there? He's a man of letters. Here comes one of the city's leading merchants from this side of the street. Want to know the exchange rate? Go check the Jornal do Comércio, that's our local times. Often you'll see a carriage in front of a fashion shop. That's a local Ninan, a Brazilian version of a Parisian coquette. See a man standing close to her inside the shop, whispering sweet words? He could be a diplomat. Will you say now that I only talk about the more elegant side of society? No, not at all. Even a working man stops here, just to enjoy for a few minutes the dazzling display of wealth behind those glass windows. Because, my dear friend, wealth has this good quality: just looking at it brings comfort. I found myself speaking like a philosopher, and it surprised me. At the same time, I thanked heaven for such a valuable encounter. For a man from the provinces, who doesn't really know the capital, it's a blessing to find an intelligent guide. The man who had been inside came out to the door, stood there for a moment, and then walked off with another man who happened to be passing by. He got tired of waiting, I said. Let's sit down. And we sat. Do people talk about everything here? I asked. Everything, he replied. Both good and bad. Just like in life. It's human society in miniature. But for now, what really matters is the crisis. Let's not moralize. I was so interested in the conversation that I asked C to continue his lessons, which were so important for someone unfamiliar with the city. Don't fool yourself, he said. The best lesson in the world is nothing compared to a single month of personal experience and observation. Open a moralist's book, and you'll find excellent studies of the human heart. But unless you test them yourself, reading won't help much. La Rochefoucauld at 20 puts you to sleep. At 40, he becomes your favorite book. Those last words showed me that C was one of those melancholic types who see everything in shades of death and blood. I had come here to relax, to enjoy myself, but instead I found myself stuck in the middle of another heavy conversation. Like the second volume of that old book by Father Tomé, a kind of Christian Timon. Someone you should definitely read this letter to, along with my warmest greetings. Honestly, I said to my guide, I came here to have fun, so let's skip the heavy talk. But he just shrugged and said we should discuss the crisis. The problem was, we didn't know anything yet. Here comes our friend Abreu. He'll probably know something. Dr. Abreu walked in at that exact moment. He was tall and thin, with a long mustache, a high collar, and wearing a blue jacket and trousers. We were introduced. My friend C asked him what he knew about the crisis. "Nothing official," replied Abreu in a low voice. "I only heard last night that people aren't getting along." "I heard this morning in the square that there's already a formal crisis," said C. "It's possible," Abreu replied. "I just left home and came straight here." "Did the House meet today?" "No." "Well, that's a sign. I might go to the House later." "Why?" "Well, find out here soon enough." Dr. Abreu took a cigar from a bright red leather case and, looking down at the floor as if chasing a thought, lit the cigar almost without thinking. Later I found out this was a trick he used so he wouldn't have to offer cigars to the others. "So what do you think?" C asked after a short silence. "I think things are falling apart. It couldn't be any other way. They've been fighting for more than a month now." "But why?" I asked. "For many reasons, but the main one is the presidency of your province." "Ah. The Minister of Empire wants Valadares, and the Finance Minister is pushing for Robum. Yesterday there was a cabinet meeting, and the Minister of Empire officially proposed Valadares' nomination." "What did his colleague do?" Well. So you already know about the crisis?" This question came from a man who burst into the shop faster than a rocket. He looked like a walking newspaper full of breaking news. "A formal crisis?" we all asked at once. The situation was complete. The men had argued last night and gone to San Cristobal this morning. "That's exactly what I said," remarked Dr. Abreu. "What was the real reason for the crisis?" asked C. "The real reason was a matter related to the war." "Don't believe that." Dr. Abreu said this with such proud confidence that the newly arrived man replied somewhat nervously. "Then you know more about the real reason than I do, and I was with the brother-in-law of the Minister of War." This reply seemed final. Dr. Abreu simply gave that gesture people often used to say, "Maybe." "Whatever the reason," said C, "the truth is, we have a ministerial crisis." "But will the resignation be accepted?" "I believe it will," said Mr. Ferreira. That was the name of the newcomer. "Who knows?" Ferreira took the floor. The crisis was expected. "More than 15 days ago, I said at Bernardo's house that this crisis could not be avoided. The current situation couldn't last much longer. If the ministers didn't agree among themselves, the chamber would force them out. The delegation from Bahia had already shown their teeth, and I even know we can say it now that a deputy from Ceará was about to present a motion of no confidence." Ferreira spoke these words in a low voice, with the mysterious tone that such revelations deserve. At that moment, we heard a carriage. We ran to the door. It was truly a minister. "But then, aren't they all in San Cristobal?" C observed. "This one is certainly going there." We stayed by the door, and the group slowly grew larger. Within less than 15 minutes, there were 8 of us. Everyone was talking about the crisis. Some claimed to know the facts from a reliable source. Others had only heard rumors. Ferreira left shortly after, saying he was going to the chamber to find out what was new. At that moment, a judge appeared and asked if it was true what people were saying about the ministerial crisis. We confirmed that it was. "What could be the cause?" he asked. "The Abreu," who previously had cited the provincial presidency as the reason, now told the judge that a matter related to the war had caused the disagreement among the ministers. "Are you sure about this?" the judge asked. "Absolutely sure. I heard it today from the brother-in-law of the Minister of War. I've never seen such ease in changing opinions, nor such boldness in taking credit for others' statements," I cried. Later, I asked C about it, and he responded, "Don't be surprised. In times of crisis, it's always good to show that you're well informed." Most of the people present were against the government, or at least acted as if they agreed with the brew. He stood there, looking at the fallen ministry like Brutus must have looked at the body of Caesar. Some defended the fallen ministers, but in a way that one defends a political victim without much passion or strong emotion. Every new person who arrived confirmed the same story. It wasn't just a rumor anymore. There was clearly a crisis. Groups of politicians and amateur political thinkers stood by the doors of shops, talking with excitement. From time to time, a distant figure of a congressman appeared. He was immediately surrounded and questioned, but the answer was always the same. We saw a man in his mid-30s, of average height, with sideburns, a small eyeglass hanging from a string, and a deep gaze. He walked with a certain political influence beside him. "Thank God. Now well, here's some fresh news," said C. "Here comes Mendonça. He must know something." The political figure tried to pass by another group, but Mendonça chose ours. "Come here. You, who always sticks close to the windows to hear what's being said inside. You must know what's going on." "What's going on?" "That's what I'm asking." "What's the news?" "There's a crisis." "Okay, but are the ministers leaving or staying?" Mendonça smiled, then grew serious. He adjusted his tie and murmured "I don't know" that sounded very much like "I know too much." I looked closely at this man who seemed to hold the secrets of the nation. I admired how he kept them hidden from us, with such silence. "Tell us what you know, Mr. Mendonça," the judge said. "I've already told Your Excellency." Abra interrupted. "What's going on? At least I have reason to say this. I don't know what Mr. Mendonça knows, but I believe he won't agree with me." Mendonça made a motion, as if he were about to speak. Everyone gathered around him. No one had ever listened to the Oracle of Delphi with more interest. "We all know there's a crisis. The cause might seem small, but the situation couldn't last any longer." "What's the cause?" "The appointment of a new judge." "That's all?" "That's all." "I think I get it," Abreu said, smiling. "It was something hanging in the air for weeks." "Exactly," Mendonça replied. "Some men went to the palace." "Will the resignation be accepted?" I asked. Mendonça lowered his voice. "I believe so." Then he shook the judge's hand, then the hand of Mr. C, and finally Abru's. After that, he left with the same satisfaction a man feels after saving the entire nation. "Well then, gentlemen," Abru said, "I believe this version is the true one. Mendonça is well informed." A man walked by. "Hey, come here, Lima," Abreu shouted. Lima came closer. "Are you invited to the ministry?" "I am." "Wanna position yourself?" Don't think Lima was actually important. A brief joke was one that always returned during every crisis. Lima's only concern at that moment was a group of ladies walking by. I heard someone say they were the Valadares, the family of the soon-to-be president. They stopped in front of the shop, spoke briefly with Mr. C and Lima, and continued on their way. "These girls are beautiful," one of the onlookers said. "I'd appoint them to the ministry. If I were the prime minister, I would too. The plump one should be minister of the navy." "Why?" "She looks just like a frigate." A quick laugh followed this exchange between the judge and a brew. In the distance, we saw a carriage coming. "Who is it? A minister?" "Let's see." "No, it's Mr. A. How beautiful she looks." "Of course. Does she already have a carriage?" "She's had one for a long time." "Look, there's Mendonça. Has with someone else." "Who's that?" "A congressman." The two passed by us together. Mendonça didn't greet us when he arrived. He was too busy whispering with the congressman. For a moment, the political conversation paused. Don't be surprised. It only makes sense to mix a discussion about a political crisis with the soft silks of a lady's gossip. In the distance, Ferreira finally appeared. We asked him, "What's new?" His resignation was accepted, Ferreira answered. "Who's going to replace him?" "No one knows yet." "Why not?" "They say the current ministers are keeping their positions until Monday." Ferreira said this and walked inside to find a seat. Others followed him. Some people just left. "But how do you know this?" the judge asked. "I heard it at the chamber," Ferreira replied. "It doesn't sound right to me." "Why not? What kind of power can a government have when it's already resigned but still in charge?" "It is strange," Ferreira admitted. "But I heard it from the cousin of the Minister of Finance." Ferreira had a habit of knowing things through the relatives of ministers. At least that's what he always claimed. "Who do you think will be the new minister?" "Probably N. Or maybe P. This morning, someone said it would be K." Mendonça came in. The shopkeeper brought him a chair, and he sat down next to Lima, who was just taking off his gloves. At the same time, the judge offered snuff to everyone around him. "Well, Mr. Mendonça," the judge asked, "who do you think is going to be called?" "The B." "Are you sure?" "That's what people are saying." "I heard it won't happen until Monday." "No," Mendonça insisted. "I can tell you for sure that B went to the palace." "Did you see him yourself?" "No, but someone told me." "Well, I still believe we'll have to wait until Monday." I was starting to get really into the conversation. I had almost forgotten why I cared about the ministers changing in the first place. I was now focused only on what was happening right in front of me. You wouldn't believe how exciting it is to build a new government on the street before it's even formed at the palace. Everyone shared their guesses. Many names were thrown into the mix, all fighting for power. The room buzzed with quiet speculation, the kind that filled smoke-filled back rooms and crowded salons when politics were in the air. Someone would toss out a name, and the conversation would pick up like a game of chess played with portfolios instead of pieces. What about F for justice, M for war, K for navy, T for public works, V for finance, X for empire, and C for foreign affairs. One man suggested. No way. Another shot back. V should be handling foreign affairs. But V can't be part of that lineup. Why not? Is it at odds with F? Well, yes. But what about the Bahia delegation? At that, the second man scratched his ear, a telltale sign he was stuck. The Bahia delegation, he replied, could work if we slot an N. N won't take it. Why not? He doesn't want to be part of a transitional government. Is that what you're calling this? What else would you call it? This kind of back and forth was common. Everyone joined in, even C, and the same lines were repeated every time someone proposed a new lineup. But just then a congressman walked in, and the chatter stopped. This was it, someone finally had news. Sure enough, the congressman brought fresh updates. I just heard, he said, that V has been summoned to the palace and is forming a cabinet. There, Ferreira exclaimed. Didn't I tell you? Nothing else could happen. The situation belongs to V. His last speech was what the French call a discourse, ministria, minister's speech. Who else is in? For now, the congressman replied. Only two names are confirmed, Justice and Empire. Who are they? I don't know, the congressman said. But I could tell he was lying. He knew perfectly well, but was bound to keep it under wraps. I realized he was the kind of man who licked the inside of the jar, a phrase often used in times of crisis. A short silence followed. I figured everyone was trying to guess who the other ministers might be, but if anyone figured it out, they kept it to themselves. Abri turned to the congressman. Your Excellency believes the cabinet will be finalized today? I think so, the congressman said. But then again, maybe not. This situation isn't stable, Ferreira remarked. I'm surprised Your Excellency hasn't been invited, he added. I wouldn't count on it, the congressman replied. The afternoon sun beat down on the streets of Rio de Janeiro, casting long shadows over the cobblestones. The city buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that always comes before big news. We were all gathered there, a small group of men, caught in the middle of an unexpected political twist. The words that followed, ill-timed and clumsy, came from Lima, a man who treated politics the same way he treated women and horses, with charm but little care. Nobody wanted to react, not openly. Each of us tried to hide our reaction to his foolish remark. But one of the deputies, calm and direct, answered the question head-on. I'm not surprised at all, he said. I'll gladly step aside for the new members. I'm ready to serve as a soldier. That's all I am. Excuse me, I interrupted, but that's very honorable. Just then, a man burst into the room, out of breath. I was startled. He was another deputy. He looked around, spotted his colleague, and said, "Can I speak with you for a moment?" "What is it?" the first deputy asked, rising from his chair. "Come here." They walked to the door, exchanged a few quick words, and then said goodbye to the rest of us. Without another word, they hurried off. "They're both ministers now," Ferreira whispered, watching them go. "You really think so?" I asked. "No doubt about it," he replied. Mendonça agrees too. That was the first time I'd ever seen Mendonça adopt someone else's opinion without argument. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the two deputies left. The rest of us were eager for more information, so we stepped outside and slowly made our way down the street. Groups of 4 or 5 people stood around, all talking about the same thing. We stopped to listen. We compared what we'd heard. But nothing was confirmed. One group was already naming 3 new ministers. Another added the 2 deputies to the list, simply because they had seen them get into the same carriage. By 3 o'clock, rumors about the entire cabinet were spreading, but everything was still vague. We decided not to go home until we knew the final outcome of the crisis, unless, of course, the news didn't arrive by 5. According to C, it was in poor taste to be seen on Rua do Ouvidor after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But how are we supposed to find out what's going on? I asked. I'll see if I can pick up any news, Ferreira said. I'll ask around. We walked slowly, distracted by all sorts of small interruptions, a friend passing by, a woman stepping out of a shop, a new piece of jewelry in a shop window, or another group just like ours, whispering the same rumors we had already heard. But by the end of the afternoon, we still knew nothing. I returned to the Europa Hotel to rest and have dinner. C joined me. We talked a lot about our college days, our love stories, our little adventures, until night fell and we decided to head back to Rua do Ouvidor. Wouldn't it be better to go straight to VS house? I asked. After all, he's the one putting the cabinet together. Above all, we don't have enough reason to justify that move, answered C. Besides, he probably can't talk to us right now. Putting together a cabinet isn't easy. In the end, once it's done, we'll find out who's in it, just like everyone else, right here on the street. Rua do Ouvidor looks beautiful at night. Young men gather in front of the shops, watching the girls walk by. With all the lights shining, you wouldn't believe the effect it creates. I admit I completely forgot about the ministry and the political crisis. Back then, fewer people cared about politics at night. The evening belonged entirely to fashion, which paid far less attention to government affairs than the daytime crowd. Still, we came across some small groups who were certain the cabinet had already been formed, though no one could confirm the full list of ministers. We met the same friends we had seen earlier that morning. Just as Mendonça was getting ready to go find some solid news, the judge appeared with a cheerful face. What's new? It's done. It's organized. But who's in it? The judge pulled a list from his pocket. These are the names. We read the names by the light of a street lamp. Mendonça didn't like the list. Aubrey thought it was great. Lima found it weak. Is this confirmed? I asked. I just received this list, and I believe it's real. What is it? Said a voice from behind me. I turned around. It was a dark-skinned man with a gray mustache. Do you know who's in the cabinet? Abreu asked him. I have a list of my own. Let's compare it with ours. We lined up the 2 lists. One name was different. Later we found another group reading yet another list. This time, 2 names didn't match. Some people who didn't have a list copied one from someone else, skipping the questionable names or marking them with a cross in the margin. Lists flew around like that until one appeared that looked truly official. More lists followed, all pointing in the same direction, and by 9 o'clock that night, without leaving Rua do Ouvidor, we knew for sure who was in the new cabinet. Mendonça was clearly happy with how the crisis ended. Someone asked him why. "I have 2 godfathers in the ministry," he said with a grin. Here you have a rough sketch of a ministerial crisis in Rio de Janeiro. A rough sketch indeed, because paper can't capture the conversations, the rumors, the comments, or the faces people make during such a day. Those things you must hear and see for yourself. They cannot truly be described. It all started when the minister stepped down. Some said it was because of a disagreement over tax policy. Others claimed it was a personal feud with the president of the council. Nobody really knew for sure, but everyone had a version. By midday, the rumor had spread like fire. People gathered outside newspaper offices, waiting for updates. Boys ran through the streets shouting headlines. In cafes and shops, every table was deep in conversation. Said one man at a corner table, "I heard the emperor himself picked the new guy." Another replied, "Nonsense. The emperor barely leaves the palace these days. It was the finance committee, I bet." At the same time, down the street, a group of students debated the matter with great energy. "I'm telling you," said one, "the whole thing is about that new railroad deal." "Railroads," another laughed. "No way. It's about the army. Always about the army." And so it went. Theories, guesses, and strong opinions filled the air. Mendonça, meanwhile, was walking tall. He greeted everyone with a smile, shaking hands like a man who had just won the lottery. "Why so happy?" someone finally asked. "I told you already," he said proudly. "I have 2 compadres in the ministry." He said it loud enough for others to hear, and soon the news spread. Mendonça had friends in high places. By nightfall, the excitement had not died down. People still talked, still speculated. But now, at least, they had a list they could believe in. And so the day ended not with a bang, but with a whisper, and a long, slow exhale from a city that had been holding its breath.
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Brás Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.